What is the history of standardized testing in education policy? Imagine walking into a classroom where every student is taking the same test at the same time, their pencils scratching against paper in unison. This scene has become a common sight in schools across the world, but how did we get here? The story of standardized testing in education policy is a journey that spans over a century, marked by changes in society, educational philosophies, and government involvement. The roots of standardized testing can be traced back to the early 20th century. In 1901, the first standardized test was created in the United States, known as the Stanford-Binet Intelligence Test. This test was designed to measure intelligence and was initially used to identify students who needed special education services. The test's popularity grew, and it set the stage for the development of more formalized testing methods in education. By the 1920s, standardized testing began to gain traction as a tool for assessing student achievement. The introduction of the Scholastic Aptitude Test in 1926 marked a significant shift in how educational success was measured. This test aimed to evaluate students' readiness for college and became a staple in college admissions processes. The mid-20th century saw further expansion of standardized testing, particularly with the launch of the National Assessment of Educational Progress in 1969. This initiative aimed to assess the educational progress of students across the United States and provide data to inform education policy. The results highlighted disparities in educational achievement among different demographic groups, prompting discussions about equity and access in education. In the 1980s and 1990s, the use of standardized tests became more widespread as states sought to establish accountability measures for schools. The No Child Left Behind Act, enacted in 2001, mandated annual testing in reading and mathematics for students in grades 3 through 8. This legislation aimed to ensure that all students, regardless of background, received a quality education. However, it also sparked debates about the effectiveness and fairness of standardized testing as a measure of student learning. As we moved into the 21st century, the conversation around standardized testing continued to evolve. Critics argued that an overemphasis on testing could lead to teaching to the test, where educators focus primarily on test preparation rather than comprehensive learning. In response, some states began to explore alternative assessment methods, such as performance-based assessments and portfolio evaluations. Today, standardized testing remains a contentious topic in education policy. While proponents argue that these tests provide essential data for improving educational outcomes, opponents raise concerns about their impact on teaching practices and student well-being. As education continues to adapt to the needs of a changing society, the future of standardized testing will likely remain a key area of discussion and reform. In conclusion, the history of standardized testing in education policy reflects a complex interplay of societal values, educational goals, and government initiatives. Understanding this history is essential for navigating the ongoing debates surrounding assessment in education.